This video is about a live mastering chain that I've created inside of Apollo's X4 Gen 2. The idea behind this is that as somebody who plays live instruments and does electronic music, I've been working for a long time to try to get to a point where the mastering part itself is actually being done in real time. So a lot of times tracks, when we mix, we want to release them out into the wild and get them perfected. They sound good as they are on their own. Now you start applying and playing instruments on top of it, whether it be a Chapman stick here, playing a machine, doing a synth part. Once you add on top of that track, you're going to start getting a more and more crushed sound. So the idea here is to really be able to get something that's still dynamically loud, it has good dynamic range, and it's not getting crushed in the end, so that you still have parts like if I'm playing the instrument by itself, if I'm playing certain things by themselves, they're still breathing and they're still plenty loud. And then once they get played together, that because the real-time processing is happening, that they still sound up to par with everything else, not way louder, and it kind of comes together in a much nicer way. So my current setup right now, and this constantly changes, but the one that I'm currently pretty happy with right now is on my first DSP one, which these run in real time with no latency, is Oxford Inflator. I have this in pretty light settings. All these are pretty light settings. This is just meant to give it a little bit more perceived loudness and harmonic distortion. After that is solid state logic glue compressor. As it says, it just kind of glues things together a little bit more. It sounds nicer with everything running through it at the same time. After that, I have a Shadow Hills compressor. I'm not quite sure what this is doing, but it just makes it sound nicer. And I actually have it at default settings. It does make it a little bit louder and a little bit heavier compression, but it still has enough breathing room to the last one, which is Universal Audio's internal maximizer. And so kind of thinking about it the way I would with mixing, trying to gain stage everything so that everything that comes out still sounds nice without it being overly loud or overly crushed. So far right now, this is actually the setup that's working best for me. What I do from here is I run two outputs out of the Apollo into a second computer. And the main thing, I do this for mixing, but for the case of live, I'm actually running adapter metric AB and really just looking at the perceived loudness, making sure first and foremost that nothing is getting crushed. And then secondly, between all the songs, that there's some kind of consistency. So I don't just rely on my ears, but I'm also able to see that to make sure that when I'm doing a set list, it still has a nice dynamic range, but it is within the same area, or like almost where like a DJ would do, where you expect a certain level of loudness from everything. And so with all that in mind, the instrument by itself, now remember this is all running through this mastering chain in real time. So whether I'm playing the instrument by itself along with the backtrack, it should have a pretty good dynamic range altogether. And so the part by itself for the stick is a very simple one. In addition to that, there is a Diva plugin that I'm running inside Machine that is the melody. So all this together, along with the backtrack, will run together. And so I'll give you an example of what it sounds like, and so you can get a better idea as to how this is getting mastered live. So this is a good example of a song that has a nice amount of breathing room and has a good amount of dynamics. It gets more challenging when I'm doing more upbeat songs to ensure that the sound is not getting crushed and that everything running together. Oftentimes, my challenge ends up being that I'm just getting an overall crushed sound. So I really wanted to be able to breathe, and this is probably one of the better examples. And so over time, I may change some of the plugins and really maybe mess with different ideas. But the idea here is that all your EQing, all your live instrumentation, everything is done beforehand, before it hits this live mastering chain. And then this also becomes sort of like the standard bearer for when I'm playing something, how it's going to sound. So just having something that all the different songs that I have with the different feels, the different tempos and everything with instrumentation should still sound loud, but still have a lot of breathing room where you would expect with a live instrument, especially one with like this, where it's not a strumming guitar. And so my dynamic range ends up becoming more limited. And so that gets kind of changed up with using some of the effects, but at the same time, still want it to be something where it's dynamic. And for me as a performer, just being able to hear it in my ear, I can hear that breathing room, and therefore it ultimately ends up making me a better performer and just sounding better because of my own perceived idea of what the music sounds like. Anyway, this was just something to throw out there to kind of bring those two worlds of electronic music and live performance further and further together, to kind of still keep that human component of it while still taking advantage of all the technology that's out there. And so far for me, this Apollo unit's been great. It's been reliable, and I'm pretty happy with it. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to comment, and I will do my best with my knowledge to answer it.